This is why I just can't have nice things, because I had a dream scenario for the Denver Broncos this offseason, and my top free agent candidate is already off the books and isn't going to happen. But there is a huge silver lining to this, and ultimately this bad news comes with a silver lining. We got to break all that down and more in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me in the YouTube algorithm out a ton. It really does if you smash that like and subscribe button. So we know that inside linebacker was the position we definitely needed to upgrade. We're hoping big things as Singleton comes back from that injury. We maybe have some promise in Drew Sanders, but haven't seen him in that position long enough. And so we're like, hey, if we could go out and get a former Sean Payton draftee, a guy Sean Payton gave a chance to, who was in the running for defensive player of the year, we all would have lost our minds. And so that was, I think, at the top of our free agent wish list this offseason was bring Zack Baun to Denver. All that talk started even in the playoffs once the Broncos were eliminated, like the connections made between Sean drafting him and what a great fit he would be and all of that. The Philadelphia Eagles smarted up, and they went out and gave him the absolute bag. He'll end up getting about $17 million this year. It's a $51 million contract over 3 years, and he's no longer an option for the Denver Broncos to have. I think the silver lining to just this signing, and there's more news we got to get into, that is good news. I think the good news is, like, you were putting a lot of money in for this inside linebacker who played arguably behind one of the best defensive fronts in all of football. Like, we saw the pressure they put on Mahomes with just 4 guys. So how much of his production was a result of just playing behind a fantastic line? He definitely had some strips and some cool plays and coverage. He picked off Mahomes, but, like, is he the type of player that you watch and you're like, dude, that's the best linebacker in the world, because he is making more money than any linebacker in the world after that deal. And so let me know in the comments, like, do you think that would have been overpaying for the Broncos to reach and give him $17 million? And is a lot of his production a result of how well of the defensive line in front of him played? Now, the silver lining is I think that there are still a ton of options out there for Sean Payton to pick who he wants to go out and get. We heard Adam Schefter on a podcast today say that the San Francisco 49ers are just in a ton of tumultuous situations there because they are in really big cap issues. The Debo, like sending Debo away and only getting a 5th back, like they have to find money for Brock Purdy. They have one of the oldest rosters in the league. And so he confirmed today that Dre Greenlaw is definitely going to be gone. And if you take a look at just their PFF grades, you were looking at Dre Greenlaw being graded out almost as high as Zack Baun this year. And when you look at him historically, Dre Greenlaw outperforms him a ton. He's just been injury plagued after tearing his Achilles on there. But man, if we look at prime Dre Greenlaw, you could make the argument that he was the best linebacker in the league. Just sets the tone, brings the nasty to everything he does. And this would be a tone setter to have there at inside linebacker. And so, you know, if we were to give him the bag, like, he hasn't played behind as great of a defensive front. You've seen him make tackles in space. Like here, you see him sack the quarterback, great in coverage, just a difference maker. And really, I think the 49ers could have beat the Chiefs in that Super Bowl had he not had that Achilles injury. And so maybe the great news of this is if we end up with getting a Dre Greenlaw, or like Schefter said in this tweet or in this podcast as well, Hufanga, the game-changing safety, is also going to be hitting the free agent market. So that could be really, really good news. The other person that a lot of folks talk about being a potential to come to Denver is Nick Bolton. And Nick Bolton is definitely not as highly graded as Dre Greenlaw is. And I have a bad feeling that the Chiefs are going to keep Greenlaw because the Chiefs are going to keep Nick Bolton because another piece of news that happened today was that the Kansas City Chiefs got absolutely fleeced. So they traded their Pro Bowl guard, the guy they just franchise tagged. And I said what a bad move it was to franchise tag him because you pay him like he's a left tackle when he's only a guard. Well, they traded him away so that they don't have to pay all that money, and all they got in return is a 4th-round draft pick from the Chicago Bears. To me, that is absolutely fleecing. Like, think of how upset you would be if Quinn Miners got traded for a 4th-round draft pick. You'd lose your mind. You'd be like, what? He's like one of the best guards in football. The Chiefs think that about Tooney, and so this is just fantastic for us that you are already seeing the rebuild start there. I texted my friend who's a Chiefs fan and creator, and he said, this feels like a rebuild. Like, they are rebuilding. And you take a look at that Chiefs defensive line, they could not keep Patrick Mahomes upright, even with only the Philadelphia Eagles rushing 4. And so they already had trouble with both of the tackle positions, and now you're taking one of their Pro Bowl guards out of there. This is just fantastic news for us as Denver Broncos fans. I love the fact that you are going to now have Zack Allen going against, who are they going to have there? Like, are they going to draft a rookie and throw him in there? Good luck. There's some talk that they might try to sign Stanley, but the Chiefs are at that spot because of what they are paying to Travis Kelce and what they're paying to Mahomes and what they're paying to Chris Jones. They don't have a ton of money to throw around, and you just shipped off one of your Pro Bowlers. That's just great news for us as Denver Broncos fans. Other piece of great news, the real true silver lining to this is that Mike Kliss put out a column where he talked about that he thinks the Broncos are going to add a receiver of note this offseason. So not another Josh Reynolds like we did last year, like a number one receiver, that type of caliber. And there's a lot of names on here. So we're hearing Devontae. We heard today that DK Metcalf asked for a trade. He's a young guy. We've seen his productivity. Awesome to see. Bad things happen to the Seahawks after the Russell Wilson debacle. I can't stand the Seahawks after they beat us in the Super Bowl. I can't stand them. So it's great that they're kind of imploding there and getting rid of DK Metcalf. But then this interesting thing here that Bovada, the sports book, has the Broncos as the favorite to land Garrett Wilson. Now, he was just a 10th round overall, or a 10th overall draft pick in the draft just a few years ago, and has showed tremendous production despite the fact that he's been playing with some pretty subpar quarterback play. And Vegas isn't in the business of losing money. And so for the Broncos to be listed as the number one spot on there, and then hearing Kliss say the Broncos will be making a run at a substantial, or how did he actually word it? He said a receiver of note this offseason. Garrett Wilson would definitely fit the bill. And if you're asking me, like, would I rather be paying a linebacker like a Zack Baun, who might just be producing because he's been behind a great defensive line, or a game-changing wide receiver? I definitely would choose this game-changing wide receiver. So let me know in the comments what you think about this. And then of these wide receivers on the board, which of these would make you the most hyped about it? I put a poll up on my channel, and it looked like most folks, the person they're most excited about in this whole thing is Chris Godwin, but there are going to be a ton of suitors trying to vie for one of these receivers of note. So that's going to be something that I can't wait to watch play out. And here's the news about DK Metcalf. Things are crumbling there in Seattle, and he's asking for his way out. So that's very cool. Other thing, I guess is good news. You never want your opponents and to lose because of injury, but this is just kind of crucial and gutting news for the Texans, as Tank Dell ended up kind of prolonging his knee injury and didn't end up getting surgery on it until this week, which means he is probably out all of next season. So add the Houston Texans as another team that definitely need to find a wide receiver. That Texans offense was way more high-powered when Tank Dell was healthy. So as the Broncos are going to be competing with the Texans for a playoff spot, this is just great news that they're going to be without the services of Tank Dell, but that also means that as we are all battling for these wide receivers, the Raiders need a wide receiver one, the Chargers need one, the Chiefs need one, the Texans need one. Everyone is going to be wanting one of these players here, and so truly it's going to be Sean Payton, 300 Days of Sun, Bo Nix, richest owner in sports. We got to be pumping that in their earbuds and remind them there's no place like Denver, and you want to come and play here. And then the other silver lining, again, is that Schefter news that we have Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw on the block, and that could be great if either of those players ended up in Denver. If that's the only move that we did this offseason was got Hufanga or Greenlaw, I think we'd all say mission accomplished in the offseason. We already were in the playoffs. We have one more good draft. We have Bo Nix take an incremental step forward. We have Devon Vele take an incremental step forward. We go from being bounced in the playoffs to being a late playoff contender, and that's very, very exciting. So it is a very fun time to be covering the Broncos. Hope is alive. We are so back in Broncos country. We got a ton to believe in. Woo! Let's go!